got 152 yards. Should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
That's dirt.
Yo, yo, yo. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Preferred Lines podcast. My name is Joe Idoni. At Tour Picks is a place that you can find me on X, and I'm your grateful host each and every week of this show. We are ready. We are full steam ahead. I can already smell those Georgia pines. We have one last stop in the great Lone Star State of Texas as we have the Valero Texas Open this week, of course, at TPC San Antonio. As always, over the course of the next hour, I'm going to bring a guest alongside me in just a couple of minutes. We're going to recap a breakthrough, potentially career-altering win in dramatic fashion for Woo Lee. The PGA Tour is on absolute fire right now with its superstars showing up. We're getting big names. We're getting dramatic finishes, and every week seems to almost top the next. Excited to talk that, and then pivot gears. We're going to bring up the stat model. We're going to give historical course notes, trends, data, all that good stuff in terms of TPC San Antonio. Finally dishing out some picks to win. Ted, good evening. Good to see you back here, Ted. Missed you the last couple of weeks. I know my schedule has been erratic. Joanne, thank you. Good evening to you as well. So took the week off last week, did the TGL finals. It has been an absolutely awesome, rewarding, but grind-worthy 3 months for me, friends. Going basically from a day job to stopping home for just a quick change, going to TGL, not getting back until 1:30 in the morning on Mondays and Tuesdays for the last 3 months. 16-hour work days have really kind of taken its toll on me. It was an awesome kind of to wrap that up, and excited to put full focus and energy back into Preferred Lines each and every week as we gear up toward major season. As always, this show presented to you by the good folks over at RotoBaller. The promo code that you want to use is LINES. That gets you 10% off any monthly, weekly, annual sub over there. You get full access to all of my content, Discord channel. Obviously, Spencer Aguiar. Shout out Spencer for hitting another winner last week in Woo Lee. The course scouting report is out right now. Awesome stuff in there. I'm going to bring up some notes from there shortly. Promo code LINES. Go check out RotoBaller. Thanks as always for supporting the show to the good people over there. Now, before we bring up the guest, I wanted to do a giveaway tonight. It just feels like it's been a while since I did one of these. So there are 3 rules to this giveaway. First, I'm going to showcase the items. Item number 1, behind door number 1. Preferred Lines Azalea tee. It's time to bring some of these back. I've got some new stuff in the works that we're flushing out here headed into Masters season. Preferred Lines tee. Also in the gift bag giveaway this week. This is official. I can't confirm or deny that during the celebrations last week, I may or may not have snagged this from the bench on the Atlanta Drive. Official TGL hammer flag from the TGL finals. That's in there. And lastly, new partner, I shouldn't say partner, but a new supporter of the show at this point. The guys sent me some awesome stuff here to give away for Masters Week. I'm wearing the hoodie right now. Shout out Swing Juice. They have this Azalea Polo. This thing is pretty sweet. Super comfortable, breathable, stretchy, moves all types of different ways. I got the Polo shirt. I got the Swing Juice hat right here for you. Little row pad action. I'm going to give someone in the chat all 4 of those items. Here's how you enter. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Preferred Lines YouTube channel. You probably already are if you're here. So you already checked box number 1. Number 2, follow RotoBaller PGA on X. Follow Swing Juice on X. 2 steps down. And lastly, leave me a comment below with your pick to win the Valero Texas Open. You don't have to be right. You just have to give me your pick to get in the drawing, and make sure to leave your X handle as well. That'll get you in there. I will announce it later this week. I'll collect your address information. I'll put this stuff in the mail. And thanks again to Swing Juice for supporting the Preferred Lines program. Now, let's get to the show. Let's bring on our guest here. Help steer the ship over the next 45 minutes. Of course, welcoming back to Preferred Lines, the host of Back 9 Bets, the co-host of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, available on Mayo Media Network. One of the longest running and most successful DFS pods in the history of golf content. This gentleman was awarded 2023 Fantasy Sports Golf Writer of the Year, made a cameo acting appearance in Full Swing Season 3, and everyone's favorite South African. Welcome back to the show, Byron Lindeque. Pleasure to see you tonight.
Joe Idoni, what an intro. I'm going to have to hire you as my guy. I mean, I've had a good few intros before, but I mean, that has to be one of the best. And also shout out Kenny Kim. I mean, would never have imagined he could ever do a podcast for that long. And he says so himself that he's lucky just be alive to continue doing it. So happy to be here. Let's chat some golf. I got my bird lines on my cup over here. We are rocking and rolling. The merch
baby.
To you while you were showing all that stuff, I was like, God damn it, I got a Preferred Lines t-shirt upstairs, but I've been using it to work out a lot in, so it looks a little tatty.
Hey, get some sweat in. I got some new stuff coming. I've actually ordered them. They're on the way. I don't want to tease it just yet, but some new stuff coming. Anyone who wants one of those, actually that I have left, if you just want one, send me a DM and I might just hook you up. All right, Byron. Woo Lee, another example in a long line of just how hard it can be to win on the PGA Tour. But the tour right now, as I mentioned, seems to be an absolute rocket ship on fire. You get their Rory winner at the Players in a 3-hole aggregate playoff. You get, this Justin Thomas versus Victor Hovland down the stretch at the Valspar. Then you get Minwoo, Rory, Scottie charging right at him. What did you make of Sunday's performance by Minwoo? Were you on the ticket by chance? And just your thoughts on what happened in Houston.
Buddy, if there's ever a community win, I am not part of that. It's just how I roll. I don't know why. I'm a contrarian to a fault, an absolute financial pit fault. But I had a top 30 bet on him, and it was one of two that I had. And it's just so weird watching a top 30 bet like go and just stomp the field like that.
Yeah.
I was expecting, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I was expecting him to do what he did at the Players kind of thing, kind of just hit a few reckless shots like he did on Sunday. But this golf course just didn't push him to do those kind of shots. The bad shots he hit, he could totally get away with. And should have known that. Terrible flaw in the handicapping process there to know that, that pressure wouldn't be there as much. But to hold off Rory, to hold off Scottie, to hold off the boys, Gary was coming at them. And to play those 2 holes where he had the ball in his hand both times, 1 over par, was incredible, scrambling, considering he only played those 2 holes 1 over. That saved him the tournament, in my opinion. So congratulations to him. I've been talking mad shit about him, and I'm owning it. So he's a star now.
A young star, exactly. Ted loves the show, by the way. Ted's big supporter here. Kevin says, big moves. We back from MX and cranking. Full day on the farm. Ready for some good dudes. Thanks, Kevin. And Justin, what up, dude? I haven't spoken to you since got back from your honeymoon. Congrats, Justin. I owe you some Preferred Lines gear as a wedding gift. It's the very least I can do. But also on the Minwoo things, shout out Bo Martin, man. I look back at that, the video, and he basically held Minwoo's bag hostage on the tee there and made him think about it for what seemed like 18 minutes, but he was not handing him a club to hit that shot under the tree. And it just shows you what a difference. Like, I was talking to some guys about what a difference, because all of these guys can get emotional and make bad decisions and get frustrated. You see it with Scottie a lot lately, but he has such a good caddy in Ted Scott to rein him in, to slow him down in those moments when your brain tends to speed up. So I think it was very important for him to have a veteran caddy like that on the bag to just say, look, take your unplayable. Let's make 6. He ended up making 5, but let's make 6 here. You've got a huge lead, and let's move on. Let's not blow the tournament right here, like we saw Jake Knapp do at the Cognizant, trying to hit out of the water. There's so many countless examples of this over and over in professional golf, particularly with young players looking for that first win. So I think a savvy move by his caddy and a savvy move by Minwoo in hiring him as a caddy and being open enough to listen to him in those moments.
Dude, caddies are so important. I just recently started watching Full Swing, and I know it's bad, but I started off thinking, where would Ludwig's career be if he never had Joe on his back? But then I went and looked, and he was balling out before Joe really showed up. But then a couple episodes later, I'm like, Scottie, where would Scottie really be without Ted? You know, like Scottie's worst round of the year last year was when he didn't have Ted on the bag. Yes, it was the day after getting arrested, but still, you know, like caddies make a big difference in your life. You know, that caddy was on the bag there, and what, you know, to hit the shots that he did out of the situation is on Minwoo. But again, like it's a team effort, man. And without that, Minwoo was going to play that shot without him there, right?
Yeah, I think he was going to try to hit that. And I think he could have, you know, he may have been able to pull it off, but those are the mistakes that people made. Speaking of full swing, I can't believe you haven't watched it yet. You're in the freaking show, Byron. You're a star of the show. You might as well get a cast role there. But I really didn't like this season. The moment in the episode that hit home for me, though, was Gary Woodland's episode. And I'm saying this hopefully so that I ingrain it in my brain and remember it, because at the end of the year, we'll look back at all the winners and we'll forget all the guys that lost and all the shots that didn't ultimately lead to victory. But I want to remember that shot that Gary Woodland hit on the 18th hole from 200 some yards out of the rough over a tree to 2 feet, and remember what he was up against. This is a guy who was living in perpetual fear. He couldn't even be around his kids, Byron. And as a father of young kids, and you're in the same role, it was so overstimulating for his brain to have his kids playing in the same room for him. He couldn't handle it. He had lesions on his brain that were well documented, that were sitting on top of those fear receptors. That had him in a constant scared to death anxiety. And it was the best episode. And to hit that shot under those circumstances, right? Club twirl it. To have his kids see him hit that shot, to have his wife there with him on spring break, see him hit that shot. Like I'm getting like emotional just thinking about it, because you know, it's so much to do it for yourself, but also to show your kids who are in this formative stage of dad's not scared anymore. I'm not living afraid. Dad's on the hunt. Like dad is going for it right now. And just what that meant to him, and to see him have that walk back, like the kind of shoulders back, Gary Woodland struck, like the club raise into like before the putt drops, and like the look to the fans. It was really cool. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it now, and how much it meant to me to know what a good person Gary is, and what he's been through, and what that moment must have meant to him and his family. Shout out Gary Woodland. That was freaking awesome.
Unreal. What a seed, you know, like just a gem, you know, like to hit a shot, like 99.9% of people watching golf cannot hit that shot. You know, like it's impossible. You could give them 1,000 balls and they cannot do that. He did it when it mattered the most for him, most likely in the last 5-10 since the US Open. Like, you know, like that's probably the closest he's really been to doing something significant in a golf tournament. And I think just the relief of knowing, because you know that in the back of his head, he's saying, you know, it's all about the kids, it's all about, but he's still got that competitive nature in him, man. And you could tell that it was like weighing him down, that he couldn't do what he wanted to do when he's on these meds and things. Yeah. And when that ball was in the air, all I could think about was meds. Like he always says the med, like, oh man, I can't wait to get off the meds, you know? Mm-hmm. And he's still on the meds, right? Is he? Or is he?
I think so, like, yeah. I think he's trying to wean off of them, but it's a golf shot that would have scared anybody, that would have left a lot of pros in fear of just the consequence of that shot, essentially not knowing what was going on with Minwoo, but knowing that you're one back of Scottie, right? Who's in the house. You have to make birdie on the 18th hole, one of the hardest holes of the day. You've got 200 yards over a tree, and to just step up there and hit it with no fear, and to be so confident, the club twirl it halfway there and lean back and walk after it. That moment was really cool, and one of the ones that I don't want to forget when I think about the 2025 Houston Open.
Amen.
Rory made his run. Scottie made his run. heading into the first major championship of the season, it kind of feels like we've got two horses that are going to be heavy favorites in front of everyone else playing the event. You had to pick one right now. Whose stock are you buying heading into Augusta National of those two?
Short-term stock to win a green jacket, I'm taking Scottie. Long-term stock, Rory, man, because I think his stock
long
is
term,
slightly
if it doesn't happen this year for Rory, it feels like it's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. So as in like, okay, let me say medium-term stock for the rest of the year, I'm taking Rory. Long-term for the rest of Augusta, I think Scottie Scheffler's going to hand up with like 5 majors. They're all going to be 5 green jackets. You know, like that's just how it's going to go. And this dude just knows what to do around that golf course. And I think the fact that his putting is working nicely, it's good to see again, because we know the ball striking will just show up around there. He just knows where to miss. But you said it. Like, if you think about what Scottie got up to before winning, you think about what Rahm got up to before winning his green jacket the last 2 times, they went on these tears, man, where they just were perennially winning golf tournaments easily, you know, without like a sweat. And if it's not this year, when is it ever going to happen for Rory?
It feels like it. I mean, everything's trending in that direction, which kind of scares me as someone who's it's always felt like when things are obvious and trending for Rory that they don't happen.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful this year could be different. I think I'm buying his stock. He seems to be planning strategically his trips to Augusta better. He didn't want to avoid the practice rounds and the fans and the craziness of the media. He went before Houston. He went after Houston back. He kind of planted a little seed of doubt with the elbow that maybe was a psychological thing for him to take a little pressure off. But really, one of the things I took away from that interview is he changed the setup in his driver and hit it much better on Sunday and said he felt much better about the driver. Because despite the fact that he won the Players' Championship, he was all over TPC Sawgrass with the driver. He was not great the first couple of days in Houston. I believe on Sunday after that switch and de-lofting the driver a little bit, he was second in strokes gained off the tee on Sunday around Memorial Park. If he gets that club working, because the iron play is so dialed in right now, I feel pretty good about the putter, but he is really in more control of his wedges from 100 to 150 yards than I can remember Rory McIlroy being. So if he can get the driver is tuned up and trying to peak for Augusta, Georgia, about 7 days from now, he will be in very good shape. And it seems like I'm going to do this whole show again next week. And to me, it feels like we could do an hour just debating who do you want, Scottie or do you want Rory? Because it feels like it's inevitable that it's one of those two guys. Like, they hold so much win equity in the Masters. I don't know that I can remember an event quite like it with just 2 guys like that.
Yeah. And one of them never having won it before is the craziest part about it, right? Yeah. It's like, that's the crazy thing. And we're going to have to just, the last time Scottie and Rory finished top 5 in the same tournament was the Olympics. That was the only time it happened last year. And then 2023 BMW Championship was the second next time, according to like my stuff. But it's not often, man. So like to try and find these two in the same top of the board it's incredible. And there's going to be a few live stars that show up, and they are not going to let this PGA train run away. Now it's a train that has full steam ahead.
Yeah,
so
full goal.
Maybe John Rahm's just going to have to go lay on the tracks and just derail it somehow and then let the rest do their job, but we'll see.
All right, so before we move on to before we move on to the Valero Texas Open, wrapped up TGL Season 1, was there almost every week. Curious kind of what your thoughts were before. I think a lot of people have opinions on it. I, of course, am biased. Not that they didn't pay me a single dollar the entire season, but I'm right here, and I got to experience a lot of it. And whatever you thought, thank you to them for opening the doors for me, especially in an era where I've been to PGA Tour events and it hasn't been the most warm environment for a gambling guy to walk into the media center, in an era where they're DCMAing. If you repost something of theirs, they don't want to see. Now there's word that they're trying to control the Creator Classics, and we don't want to let these guys play in the live duels. And just the fact that TGL was so gracious and open and has a group of incredibly hardworking people there that made it all happen behind the scenes. I have to give them their flowers, at least from my end. And they never said a word to me about what you can and can't post. There was, of course, a document you had to sign, but I don't read it. And they just let me kind of do my thing, right? And that was so freeing for someone like me. And they passed me the mic without fear of asking a stupid question or asking something wrong or out of line. And it was really great experience for me. And I can't wait for season 2. It's going to be a long 9 months for me. But what were your thoughts on what transpired the inaugural season?
Well, you gave TGL their flowers. I'm going to give you your flowers, Joe. Your coverage of the TGL was incredible, sir. And I'm just getting goosies thinking about it because you're just an average Joe. You're not like you're not a Keith Stewart, who's done this forever and been amongst these guys. You were asking Tiger Woods, Billy Horschel, Justin Thomas Cantley, all these questions, dude. And it's so nerve-wracking to do that kind of stuff. So props to you. Your coverage was incredible from inside the arena. Your press conference stuff stole the show. Obviously, what a crazy, awesome question you were asking there to Billy about Porter. And overall, I think Caitlin, my wife, has probably watched more TGL this year than she has golf. Yeah. I just think it's easier to put on the TV in front of your family because little kids can potentially get in the mood for it, depending on their age. Your wife, especially if Ludwig's on the screen, Adam Scott on the screen for different ages there. We've got the two guys. It's cool. And what I enjoyed the most, and I think there's still more room for, I love that quick little flag, the hammer that you showed up there is some stolen merchandise, potentially.
Hammer down, baby.
I like that they were willing to say, you know what, we didn't have the rules right. Let's change this on the fly and change these hammer rules. I still think that it could be a little, you have to drop it a little sooner to make the hammer last a little longer for the rest of the hole. But you want to see shots, so dropping a hammer on a putt that's statistically in your advantage when you drop the hammer and the guys just pick up their ball. That's not what the fans want to see. We want to see them make those putts to do big things. So one area I would like to see improvement on is, just tinker a bit more. I know they will. But overall, man, the product was fantastic. We all thought it was going to be very chintzy, and I had my fears about that, but it was great, man. It was the personalities were amazing for the most part. There are a few guys that need to just get absolutely punted from the teams. They just are just walking Greek yogurts, and we need to kind of just move on there. But first season, great success. Super excited. And I love that it's 9 months, If we just got it again in the fall, it's too soon. We're going to be ready for this, and it's nice and short and sweet. And before the majors start, boom, TGL done.
We'll have a nice off season, and I think it will be even better in season 2. Look, I told TGL this after the thing, and I said the team that deserved to win won because, in my opinion, there were 5 teams that were playing simulator golf, and there was one team that was playing TGL, and that was the Atlanta Drive. They hired a guy that was full-time on their bench that was scouting the holes, that had a full plan for them, that was there when they showed up for their practice round with every hole, that was reading the greens before the tournament, that was rolling putts from everywhere, that had a full-on scenario notebook of when and when to not use the hammer. They tried harder than anyone else. A couple teams had no idea how to use it. Atlanta had every scenario and they tried the hardest. And the moments with Billy, man, and Justin, you can't fake that. Whatever you do, no matter what type of competition that you create, those moments are real, and they're real because those guys bought in and cared.
Yeah.
Liv would kill for a moment like what Billy Horschel, that emotional outburst on the green. The PGA Tour would love that kind of moment. And you only can really get that in this environment, under the lights, in an arena. It was just really fun. Can't wait for season 2. Let's go.
Yeah. And quickly before we jump next, the modern day golfer has a sports psychologist. If you don't have one now, you're not winning golf tournaments because Cantley, Xander, Wyndham Clark, their mentality on the course is so flat You know, you can't get your emotions high or low. This gives them the opportunity to still flex their skill set while seeing who they are.
It's a good point.
So it's nice to have that environment for these guys to kind of, okay, there's a bit of this in him. I can get behind this guy now because of who he is.
Yeah, I actually don't think they should expand either. I think they should keep the same team, and I think they should punt a few players and add some additions and guys who will not only buy into the format, but will be good on TV too.
Yeah.
So I think they'll do it. All right, let's talk TPC San Antonio. Let's go over the course a little bit, Byron. I know that you're totally dialed in on it. This is some of my notes, past champions. God, I tweeted out an hour ago on the PGA Tour channel on Samsung TV. So Golf Channel used to do this, and they don't do it anymore. I used to love watching last year's tournament when they like speed through it before this year's. So Samsung TV has this like PGA Tour channel on it that you don't need a subscription for or anything. It's just one of their sports channels, and they've been showing the old tournaments. So before this, I was watching. On the 8th hole, Akshay had a 6-stroke lead. He was 18 under par. Denny was 12 under par. And the fact that Denny made that charge to get into the playoffs and then chunked a wedge was pretty insane because Akshay didn't crumble. He was 2 under after that point, and Denny just caught him. But Batia, 20 under last year. Connors, 15 under the year before. JJ Spawn in 2022. Jordan Spieth in 2021. Corey Connors won again in 2019. Both 2019 and 2021 were Charlie Hoffman runner-up. So this course, I think it's not Houston, but it's a little bit like Houston where there's a very low penalty for missing the fairways. But the caveat there is it depends on how far you miss the fairways. If you're in like the first cut or even this intermediate cut of rough, TPC San Antonio has no teeth like Houston. You can really bomb it over there. But the dispersion, the wider you get, is really, really bad here because you get these absolute densely populated areas of trees, these rocks, these Texas brush. It is just completely unmanicured and unmanageable the further away you get from it. There's really, really harsh penalties when you get outside of maybe 15 yards of the fairways. Greens and reg rate is pretty low, 6th lowest on the PGA Tour. One of the more difficult courses in terms of sand save difficulty as well. I'm kind of looking at those overseeded POA greens. Similar to last week. I'll be interested to see how much overseed around the rough. I thought it really watered down Memorial Park a little bit because a lot of the areas that I remember, like take the Min Woo shot into 18, right? It goes a little bit long of the green and it just stops a yard from the green to where he could putt it. In years past there, that would have ran all the way down the hill. And there were a number of those where it makes it very much more difficult to get up and down. We'll be interested to see kind of that setup here. But overall, I think we have a pretty good idea of the examination that TPC San Antonio presents at the Oaks course over the years. Do you have anything, Byron, to kind of add there from your historical data?
No, I think you knocked it out the park there, Joe. Just the one thing being a 7,400-yard course, but with driving distance being down 10 yards per tour average is interesting. So but it can bomb it, but it's mainly just a couple par fives that are really doing the most damage there with the distance. So
yeah,
it's fun. It's a course that anytime Matt Kuchar can contend, it's a fair test of golf, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So looking forward to a fun, dude. We got a great run up to the Masters, man. I hope this week delivers good.
I hope too. It's not been a letdown. Usually after the playoffs, it's like, oh, it's like every week has been so exciting and good golf courses and good finishes with young superstars. Shout out Andrew here who says Big Tone Finau is going to win. Listen, Andrew, proper usage of the contest here. I'm giving away 4 items this week. He gives me his Twitter handle. He gives me a winner. I don't care who you have to win. Tell me who you got it. Make sure you're following and subscribe to the channel, and I may send you a goodie bag full of goods right ahead of Augusta National. So thank you, Andrew. Okay, Byron, here's a new thing I'm kind of doing. I don't know that I was doing this last time that you were on the show, but I am going to present my top 10 in my stat model this week. And voila, something's off in the algorithm, the Alamo Algo, as I coined it, because Rico Hoey is the number 1 ranked player in my stat model this week, probably because you're looking at a lot of green for Rico Hoey. Number 1 off the tee last 30 rounds, top 15 in strokes gained approach, 3rd in good drive percentage, 8th in distance from the edge of the fairways, 5th in sort of the mid-iron bag wedge range from 150 to 200 yards, 4th in greens and reg. The dude has just been absolutely stellar lately. So he's number 1 in my model. Bud Cauley, number 2. Tommy Fleetwood, Siwoo Kim, Corey Connors, of course, rounding out the top 5. Then we get to Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, Daniel Berger, Keith Mitchell, Lee Hodges, and, of course, Charlie Hoffman. I'll throw him a bone there. Mr. Valero Texas Open at number 11. If you all want to build your own model on the rabbit hole, what I think is the most robust stat modeling tool out there, the promo code is at TourPicks. All caps. If you want to use that, that'll get you 25% off. It is a great time to get involved. We're leading into major season. You can do a monthly, you can do a weekly, you could do an annual subscription. It's an incredible deal. 25% off is the biggest discount available to anyone over at the Rabbit Hole. It will be extremely helpful. Not only can you build your own tools, you can get access to my model each and every week. You can look at all their expert quote unquote rankings. You have Steve Shermer here, Andy Lack, Ryan Noonan, Matt Vincenzi, PGA Tout, my boy, who will be back on the show soon, Ron Close. There's just, you can look at everybody's models. You can compare them. You can steal bits and pieces from here and there. It's a really cool tool if you haven't used it yet. Byron, your thoughts on this is probably the most outrageous model that it spit out to me all year. How did I end up with those 2 guys at the top? Anyone here that surprised you or I'm missing?
No surprise with Rico, given what you put in there. I think only 10. Is there any putting involved in this one?
No,
because there's a putting problem with Rico Hoey. So, that's totally okay. This is a paradise of ball strikers if you can, separate yourself from the field, and he is. He's super, super good. So hopefully Hoey is not number 1 in the model, and Bud Cauley is. A little teaser there. Tommy Fleetwood, model darling, blah blah blah. It's good. All the classic things you could say about this. Keith Mitchell being in the mix you got to duck and dive a couple gut model darlings in here, but the rest are all making a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, putting is probably the one that I didn't throw in here that I probably should have, but. I don't think Batia was a great. I mean, obviously, Connors winning twice kind of avoids a little bit of that putting narrative that maybe it doesn't matter here. And if you're an elite ball striker, you've got a chance. JJ Spawn, obviously a winner, isn't known for his putting prowess either. So I just kind of left it out this week and went with more of a strictly tee to green. I just wanted to see who was playing the best tee to green.
Hey, anyone can putt a ball in from 50 feet, but no one can do what 0.01% of the world can do what Rico Hoey does ball striking.
Let's see what Rico Hoey is actually. Let's see how bad the putting. Okay, so last week in Texas, he actually gained strokes putting for the first time in what looks like 6 tournaments here. Was awful at Valspar players. He's losing. This is per round, so he's losing a lot on the field. He got absolutely wiped out at Phoenix, but top 25, T26, T11, maybe something in terms of familiarity there with Texas and the type of greens at least they will play in this week, where if you can get a positive or break even week putting, these ball striking numbers here are pretty tremendous. And the tee to green stuff has been really solid for Hoey.
Yeah, those results with that kind of putting disaster, dude, that is incredible. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
It's actually quite impressive. All right, Byron. I think it's time. Let's make some bets. Let's bring on the board. Let's go over the odds. Let's bet the board. Top of the odds this week for the 2025 Valero Texas Open. We have Ludwig Oberg, 12-1. Tommy Fleetwood right behind him, 14-1. Corey Connors, 18. Cantlay, 20. Matsuyama, 22. Batia, 25. Spieth, 25. Keegan Bradley, 25. Those are your favorites, sub 30-1 this week. Byron, do you have a spicy take on any one of the bunch you can dish out tonight?
It's not going to be super spicy, but it's going to be very emotional, motivated, and it's Keegan Bradley. I think 25-1. When you look at who he's going up against, don't really like that number that much, but I just fancy his chances. He's going to try and play his way onto this Ryder Cup team, dude. He doesn't want to be the captain. He wants to be a player.
So who's going to be the captain?
Buddy, the decision let's not get totally derailed here, but I'm hoping he's assembling a team of ultimate guys that can each have their own role, potentially, like a subdivision of a company. But again, the United States Ryder Cup management has never been nearly palatable, in my opinion. But let's get back to Keegan. Yeah, I think he's going to be great. He's a great total driver of the golf ball, accurate and long. And, he has massive winning potential compared to the rest of the guys above him there. Spieth hasn't won in a while. Cantley hasn't won in a while. Connors only wins here. And Fleetwood as well, not doing a whole lot in that department. So I felt like of the win equity, he was holding most of it at the top of the board yet at a respectable price relative to those around him. And then we're going to dive all the way down to the 45s and 50s after that. So I like Keegan. Have you got anyone in this range?
All right, so I'm between two. I'm considering Pat Cantlay. I would love to see 22. I think it could happen. He's just too good to be above Fleetwood and Connors, in my opinion. So just looking at this, I'm taking data out. This is strictly eyeball test, and I see Pat Cantlay, and I know the respect that he garners from other players. And this is not a TGL take, but watching him and you're like, JT, these guys are in awe of Pat Cantlay. And every time there is a moment, he steps up to the challenge. His short game is incredible. He won both of those matches on the last hole with clutch shots, and they put him in that position because everyone believes in him. I think that he's trending in the right direction. And quite frankly, the guy just needs a win. Very
yeah, he does.
And I think that he wants it. And, it looked pretty good at the Players, flirted there for a minute, has been on a leaderboard Sunday, and then all of a sudden he disappears. But I really trust his short game on a course like this. I think he's been driving it better. I think he is the eyeball test value. But I'm drawn back to Batia. I really think that he's honing in consistency with the driver. He's gained off the tee in 4 out of his last 5. Batia's above tour average in ball speed, so he hits it plenty long enough, and he's crushing it at 65, 66% of fairways recently. Top 5 putter on these overseeded POA greens. His performance last year, plus 21.15 strokes gained, was in terms of the data that I was looking at over the last 2 seasons, was the best measured tournament across all 6 major tours in the last 2 years, in 2022 and 25, that anybody's had. It was incredible. And I'm starting to find these links that I actually mentioned when I, on the Sawgrass show, but Batia maybe, and they're not all closely linked together, but Batia on TPC courses is pretty solid. Obviously won at TPC San Antonio last season. You look at his best performances throughout his career. He's got a 5th at TPC River Highlands, a 12th last year at the FedEx St. Jude at TPC Southwind, and then a 3rd at TPC Sawgrass in his last start. Those are some of the best performances in his career. And when you look at it from a strokes gain perspective, maybe it's the type of setup that just, typically TPC courses just pedal to the floor, stay aggressive, try to make birdie on nearly every hole. And that seems to be where Batia thrives. And I think it's a decent price point. So I'm between those two. Do you have a lean either way that can assist in my making of a pick?
Yeah, I will say that after Paddy Ice turned into Paddy Melt at the FedEx St. Jude against Lucas Glover, I've never bet him again. When your second missed fairway of the day is in a playoff and it's in the goddamn water, I'm sorry, you've lost my trust. Yeah. Going back to a golf course that you've won at in epic fashion and playing some really, really solid golf right now is Akshay. Now, Akshay has won, twice since Patrick, if you consider a couple of the KFT things there. When was Cantley's last win? I mean, does he know? It feels like I'm betting on the guy that
when actually was it BMW? Like, are we going back that far?
With Bryson, when Bryson DeChambeau was still on the tour, yeah, that's probably it. Not good. And anytime he's really shown up at the top of the board, like you said, he just goes full Houdini and then just disappears. So I like Akshay. I would take him 9 out of 10 times.
All right, let's go to the middle of the board here. We have Denny, 30-1. That's a tough number for my boy.
It's been drifting.
Berger 35, Finau 40. Excuse me, Siwoo Kim. I skipped at 35-1. Tom Kim 45-1. Keith Mitchell, Mav McNeely, Michael Kim. Actually, Michael Kim withdrew after he got into the Masters, so I'm not sure why he's still here. Bud Cauley, second in my model, 50-1. Poston 50, Sam Burns 50, Sam Stevens 50, Ben Griffin 55, Gary Woodland 55, Jacob Bridgman, Jake Knapp, Harry Hall. Any names that I'm hitting on, Byron, that have you excited about the Valero?
Yeah, baby. I've got a lot in this range. So we're going to go from Minwoo to you. What? I need you to pull up Tom Kim's name there. What's it? Ju. From Minwoo to Ju.
Yang
Kim. It sounded way better in my head. And I'm in on Tom Kim. Gaining 13 strokes on approach in the last 2 tournaments.
Wow.
Is what I need. Yeah. 9 at the Players, and I think 4 at Valspar. Yeah, brother. And chipped it all away. It was like you just netted 0 there, easy with the short game. So it's been a bit of a clunker in that department, but the ball striking's been good from old Tom Kim. And we know when that putter shows up, it tends to stick around for the tournaments. When he's won those 3 tournaments, again, Patrick Cantley tossing one away to give Tom his first. And it's just, he's a winner, So that's basically it for me there in the Tom Kim realm. If I take a peek at some other names, Bud Cauley, also ball striking. It's so nasty. Oh, okay. They won it this.
That doesn't count. Yeah, that doesn't count, Will. We're not counting that, Billy boy.
And the same with Shane Lowry. If you tell me he's a PGA Tour winner recently, I no bueno. Sorry, can't do it. Unless your name's Davis Riley and Nick Hardy, I'll give that one to you. But if you won a tournament before that, it's no good. You can't take that as another win. Cauley, I need to clarify, but after 3 rounds, he was leading the Valspar ball striking and likely carried on knocking it close and keeping it in play, moving in the right direction. T6 at the Players, top 5 at Valspar. Try to win that thing, man. And he's looking good. So I like him a lot. I'm a big fan of Jake Knapp at 70-1. I think club down courses seem to fit him too. He could easily club down with irons off the tee here. And he's playing some solid golf as well. The irons, we know Jake Knapp's irons can get not so hot.
Yeah.
Andrew Novak is just a method play for me. He's not going to show up in a model. He's too inconsistent. But that's exactly what you're looking for in an outright, right? Like someone that can just pop off. And he was leading the tournament on Thursday afternoon. And then by a little bit later that Thursday afternoon, he was level par again in the same round. So
his back 9 was inexcusable.
But the front was amazing. That's what you're getting him at 75 for. So I'm cool with that department. There's a lot of random names in this range that have potential, but just throw it away every now and then. Again, it's not the greatest field in the world, so someone's got to win this thing. And you'd imagine most of the boys at the top, they're just trying to hit good shots heading into Augusta.
All right, I'm going to let some rip here because I got a lot of guys I'm interested in. The one that I have absolutely first bet this morning was a 40-1, down to 35 now on Danny Berger. Just listen, it's Texas. This has kind of been my horse this year that I've lynched my content to since Phoenix. So let's ride the horse. He's doing a lot of things extremely well right now. 5 consecutive top 25s. He's so good around the green. He's gained strokes around the green and putting in all of those 5 starts. Tends to elevate his game on courses that gives players extra benefit than normal. in terms of hitting fairways because he has that little low controlled cut that he plays that he hits plenty far as well. And the irons are firing for Danny Berger, gaining strokes in 4 out of the last 5. Pretty good at avoiding bogeys, unless, of course, we're talking PGA National Sunday. But, Danny Berger's my guy at 40-1. I'm going to ride that horse. Okay, this is where things get weird, and I have 4 guys that I like, and I probably got to pick 2. Can maybe go with 3 of them, but start at 60-1 range. Ben Griffin, strong iron player, accurate enough off the tee to miss that huge dispersion one that gets you into huge trouble in here. Just gained 6 strokes approach on Houston. Couple of fourths earlier this year at Cognizant in Mexico. Awesome hands around the green, a solid putter inside 10 feet. Last guy out when Michael Kim that I mentioned got into Augusta. Ben Griffin is 51st, so the only way that he gets in now is with the win this week. 65-1 is Rico Hoey. Just mentioning him because he's number 1 in my model, and I don't often like to ignore that guy when there are decent odds and they're number 1 for a reason. Notably awful putter, as we touched on. But, good history, good incoming form, 14th here last year. Just pound greens in regulation if you're Rico Hoey, and maybe there's a chance. Then a couple of flyers. 70-1. I actually think this one makes the most sense, but it's Lee Hodges because this guy continues to flush his irons and ball striking. 11th in Houston, gaining 2.5 strokes on approach, which makes that 5 in a row for Lee Hodges. It's a pretty good putter lately as of well. In his last 8 starts, Byron, 5 T16 or better results of his last 8. So he's in really good form. Second in par 5 scoring average, which I think has historically been a key trend at TPC San Antonio. Second in bogey avoidance over the last 50 rounds, and a 6th year in 2023, which was the second strokes gain performance in terms of the best performances of his career was here in 2023. The only one better was, of course, the win at TPC Twin Cities. And then lastly, just gut play here that I may throw in, but I think this odds bumps up into the 80 range. Kind of a gut play in what I've seen on maybe Ricky Fowler. I like the course fit for Fowler. Look, I think Houston was a tough set of circumstances for me, and hear me out. You had to play with Scottie Scheffler, number 1 in the world. That's tough when you're not the most confident in the game. Also, he got there on Wednesday afternoon because he played in TGL Tuesday night in Palm Beach. He had to play Monday, Tuesday, TGL, then go there knowing that he needs a good performance to try to get into Augusta National, and still, with that said, shot under par all 4 days in Houston on a pretty difficult golf course. Gained 6.2 ball striking at the Cognizant. He was, I think, 6 under par at one point on Friday at the Players, and then he went full Andrew Novak there. But my point is there are glimpses of potential with Fowler that I'm seeing. Hold a shot out of the fairway for eagle. Guy really needs it. Has pretty good course history here. 17th to 17th to 10. I think that maybe not an outright bet, but I think that he makes a decent potential matchup play and a sneaky good pivot play in DFS because he's sandwiched between Hoey, who's going to pop in everyone's models, Harry Hall, who's going to be pretty popular and do well in most people's models, and then Gary Woodland, who I think a lot of people are going to, run to after last week that are excited about. He's sandwiched pimento cheese in between all those slices of bread and think he gets completely forgotten about in the high 7,000 range. Just by the look on your face, you don't love it. So maybe Hodges is the play for me, but I think there may be some sneakiness to Ricky coming back into playing a little better golf.
He's playing better. It's not hard to do after what he was up to. Okay. So I'll give you that. But also, I said, Min Woo Lee doesn't have the upside to win on the PGA Tour. I have egg on my face. So anyone can win. This is the year of Thomas Dietrich, Min Woo Lee, Brian Campbell, but now I just don't know. Ricky, I think, has just lost his stuff a little bit. So, yeah, Yeah, exactly. We run the worst lineup contest in my Discord, and Ricky was in commentating nerds one. Yes, I think
run him back, run him
run
back,
him
in
back,
there. I'll tell
but
you what.
at these odds, I'm cool with that. Anyone north of 70s chill by me. So and also I'm not going to tell you who to bet outrights on. I'm not the guy to be.
Any long shot that you love this week, 100+1?
There's a Justin Rose 90 out there, which I'm all about. 8th at the API, 3rd at Pebble.
Yeah.
Shorter golf courses, you need some short game on. Hello, Rosie, and he's good at golf and he can win golf tournaments. So I'm in on him. I will be in on him at the Masters as well, just by the way. Some other names, Joel Damon, 170-1. Does anyone hit it down the middle of the fairway more often than Joel? And then a very underrated long iron player. Great iron player just across the board. Amazing in that department. Ryo Hitsutsuni, 170-1. You think about what he gets up to ball striking the last little while. I love Valspar as like a semi-comp, more recent, like a recent form and comp course, double down going into this week a lot. And then just a complete fly on Antoine Rosner at 300-1. Just on the DP World Tour, he was one of the best iron players there is. And, there's a chance that can show up here at 300-1. I know it's a bit of a long shot there, but hey, you never know.
All right, dude. So love it. My full card will be out on Wednesday, as always. Market movers will be out on Wednesday, as always. Gonna have the roundtable out tomorrow. What all have you already recorded with the GOAT, Kenny Kim? Dude, you guys are so good together. You were like made for that role to kind of like feed into his playfulness, but also keep him on the rails a little bit. But you guys have worked really well together. Is that show out?
It's been recorded already, and it's a goodie. I think we were like, the excitement for the Masters in that show is like next level. Like he tried to quit smoking. We started speaking about the Masters. He just lit one up right away. Like it's just like he's just bricked up for this thing. But our producer Mike does a great job of like, also I read his eyes and then I know, okay, it's time to reel Kenny back in a little bit, and then we go from there. But it's been a blast doing that. I'll be doing mine tomorrow, 7 Eastern as well. Yeah, dude, I was on BK's show yesterday. I'm Mr. Valero. Everyone wants me. No one wants me for the Masters. Everyone wants me for the Valero. I'm just kidding. But happy to be on all these shows. I love being a guest. So,
dude, you're crushing it. You're on shows on an actual network. You're on shows with producers. You're leaving me in the dust. I'm the producer. I'm a one-man show over here. So, yeah. It's genuinely awesome to see your success. I've always thought the world of you, and we've always kind of hit on a certain note of making sure that this is still fun, and yet we keep the bigger picture in terms of, life success and happiness and all that good stuff in play and on the forefront of our minds, while enjoying this and not taking ourselves too seriously, but making sure that we put the effort in terms of each and every week and consistently providing reliable content that hopefully some people out there enjoy. By the amount of people that you've brought into the chat this week, I see that you've built up a great following on your own. So congrats on all your success, man. It's been awesome to talk to you and touch base again.
Likewise, my friend. It's so good to be chatting to you again. I'm loving what you guys are doing over at RotoBaller. I'm always miss you boys over there, but sometimes you just have to be onto bigger and better things and take a gamble on yourself every now and then. So it's been fun, and always a good time being on the show with you. I'm thinking about starting to have a couple more guests on my show. I'm getting a little lonely, on Back Nine Bets there. So
listen, I owe you more than one. So if you ever want a guy with half a mustache and a decent background to come on the show, give you a call, buddy.
Sounds good, dude.
All right, guys. Byron, talk to you soon, man. Thanks again. All the best.
See you, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the show this week for the Valero Texas Open. If you are here, one last final reminder, if you want to join the giveaway this week, make sure, leave me any name. You could tell me Chandler Phillips is going to win the Valero Texas Open, and I'll put you in the contest. Make sure you drop your Twitter handle here. There's not enough entries in so far. I know my boy Ted's in. He's got Keegan Bradley. Quantitative Eating's got Bud Cauley. I need your Twitter handle, Mr. Eating. Maybe that's it, but I'll figure it out. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show. Once again, make sure you subscribe to the Preferred Lines YouTube channel. Big week ahead in terms of Masters content, the biggest of the year. So any momentum that you can help me bring in terms of telling a friend who may pop into this world for a few weeks a year, liking a tweet, commenting on something, sharing with anybody out there that you know who may be a degenerate like the rest of us would be so helpful. Thank you guys so much on behalf of myself and the entire team over at RotoBaller. This has been another episode of Preferred Lines. I'll catch you guys next week for the Masters, baby. Peace.